Once you learn to read, you will be forever free. It is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. I prefer to be true to myself, even at the hazard of incurring the ridicule of others, rather than to be false, and to incur my own. Knowledge makes a man unfit to be a slave. The white man's happiness cannot be purchased by the black man's misery. Without a struggle, there can be no progress. To suppress free speech is a double wrong. It violates the rights of the hearer as well as those of the speaker. People might not get all they work for in this world, but they must certainly work for all they get. Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did and it never will. I would unite with anybody to do right and with nobody to do wrong. It is not light that we need, but fire. It is not the gentle shower, but thunder. We need the storm, the whirlwind, and the earthquake. Slaves are generally expected to sing as well as to work. No man can put a chain about the ankle of his fellow man without at last finding the other end fastened about his own neck. A gentleman will not insult me, and no man not a gentleman can insult me. A man is worked upon by what he works on. He may carve out his circumstances, but his circumstances will carve him out as well. The life of a nation is secure only while the nation is honest, truthful, and virtuous. Power concedes nothing without a demand. Find out just what any people will quietly submit to and you have the exact measure of the injustice and wrong which will be imposed on them. I had as well be killed running as die standing. For of all slaveholders with whom I have ever met, religious slaveholders are the worst. I have ever found them the meanest and basest, the most cruel and cowardly, of all others. Some know the value of education by having it. I know its value by not having it. A smile or a tear has not nationality, joy and sorrow speak alike to all nations, and they, above all the confusion of tongues, proclaim the brotherhood of man. You have seen how a man was made a slave, you shall see how a slave was made a man. The destiny of the colored American is the destiny of America. The soul that is within me no man can degrade. The man who is right is a majority. He who has God and conscience on his side, has a majority against the universe. A man who will enslave his own blood, may not be safely relied on for magnanimity. Freedom is a road seldom traveled by the multitude. The silver trump of freedom roused in my soul eternal wakefulness. My hopes were never brighter than now. At a time like this, scorching irony, not convincing argument, is needed. Our destiny is largely in our hands. Those who profess to favor freedom, and yet deprecate agitation, are men who want crops without plowing up the ground. They want rain without thunder and lightning. We have to do with the past only as we can make it useful to the present and the future. Experience is a keen teacher. I didn't know I was a slave until I found out I couldn't do the things I wanted. The relation between the white and colored people of this country is the great, paramount, imperative, and all-commanding question for this age and nation to solve. I will give Mr. Freeland the credit of being the best master I ever had, till I became my own master. Right is of no sex, truth is of no color, God is the Father of us all, and we are all brethren. What upon earth is the matter with the American people? Do they really covet the world's ridicule as well as their own social and political ruin? One and God make a majority. Having no resources within himself, he was compelled to be the copyist of many, and being such, he was forever the victim of inconsistency. It was worth half cent to kill a nigger, and a half cent to bury one. There is not a man beneath the canopy of heaven that does not know that slavery is wrong for him. The songs of the slave represent the sorrows of his heart. I had a wholesome dread of the consequences of running in debt. From apparently the basest metals we have the finest toned bells. For my part, I should prefer death to hopeless bondage. Man's greatness consists in his ability to do and the proper application of his powers to things needed to be done. They suppress the truth rather than take the consequence of telling it, and in so doing prove themselves a part of the human family. Genealogical trees do not flourish among slaves. Reader, are you with the man-stealers in sympathy and purpose, or on the side of their downtrodden victims? If with the former, then you are the foe of God and man. Education means emancipation. It means light and liberty. It means the uplifting of the soul of man into the glorious light of truth, the light by which man can only be made free. Once you learn to read, you'll be forever free. Give me the making of a nation's ballads and I care not who has the making of its laws. In what new skin will the old snake come forth? They were great in their day and generation. Liberty is meaningless where the right to utter one's thoughts and opinions has ceased to exist. That, of all rights, is the dread of tyrants. It is the right which they first of all strike down. When you learn to read, you will be forever free. I was in the midst of an ocean of my fellow men, and yet a perfect stranger to every one. At this moment, I saw more clearly than ever the brutalizing effects of slavery upon the slave and slaveholder. My day has been a pleasant one. My joys have far exceeded my sorrows and my friends have brought me far more than my enemies have taken from me. Once you learn to read, you'll free forever. Anything, no matter what, to get rid of thinking. It was this everlasting thinking of my condition that tormented me. There was no getting rid of it. Geological trees do not flourish among slaves. The same traits of character might be seen in Colonel Lloyd's slaves, as are seen in the slaves of the political parties. A man's rights rest in three boxes: the ballot box, the jury box, and the cartridge box. And yet the courage that could risk betrayal and the bravery which was ready to encounter death, if need be, in pursuit of freedom, were essential features in the undertaking. The silver trump of freedom had roused my soul to eternal wakefulness. It remains now to be seen whether we have the needed courage to have that cause entirely removed from the Republic.